I'll give a little introduction and then talk about home testing and inspection and how you could find out if mold is going to be a problem or not for you and your, not only your country home, but any home. And so this is my family. Back in 7 years ago, we moved out of the suburbs to our country home. This is one of our first, probably our first Thanksgiving, I think, in the home when we moved out of the country. And it was me and my wife going clockwise from the left, Jennifer, my daughter, who lives with my wife, Claudia, on the left, and that's me, of course, at the head of the table. And I have my son on the right, and his wife Rebecca, and they live in an apartment that we built connected to the house. And so we finally found this little home. This is the front of it. It's just only a 2-bedroom, 2-bath home. It's a 2-story home. And this is the back of it. And in order to make it where we all live there together, we took the carport that was on the left-hand side, and we added this addition to it, and built another bedroom upstairs with a master bedroom, master bath, and then the bottom was about an 800 square foot apartment for my son and my daughter-in-law. And so we've been all living together here in this property here, practically just doubled the house. It's on 23 acres up in northwest Georgia. And we just absolutely love it. It's a dream come true for us to move out to the country and just experience nature and be able to plant and we just have a wonderful life. Fortunately, God blessed me where I could work from home. But after we built the addition, my wife started becoming sicker and sicker, losing body weight, and not be able to eat anything. Terrible indigestion and bloating with her with food, and didn't know why, didn't know what was going on. And she tried doing lots and lots of research. And then finally we worked with, we came across on the internet natural, they call them, Sharon, you had a name for them, the people who are functional medicine. That's what she said, right?
Functional medicine.
That's right. Thank you. I remember last week, right? Functional medicine doctor, Dr. Wes Youngberg, an Adventist. And worked with him on the phone through a video conferencing, and found and really determined that our problem was mold in the house, and that she was getting sick from it, and basically she needed to get out as soon as possible. And we all had a number of different health issues, varying degrees, and so we ended up buying a trailer and putting it in my wife and I lived in this trailer for 2 years while we sorted out the issues with our house. And so we're finally, after 2 years, we're just back in just for about a year now. And we're going to go through the rehab, how we went through the rehabilitation, or the remediation, they call it, of the house with the mold in it, and how that all came to be. And just a brief introduction. What happened is that we had stored all our books and all our furniture, and a lot of it in my mother's house in her basement. And my mother started having dementia and with Alzheimer's, and didn't turn on the air conditioner or the heat in order to save money. And all our stuff in her basement got moldy, but we didn't think anything of it. What's a little bit of mold, right? You're not going to hurt anybody, right? Well, we were dead wrong. We were dead, because mold is very, very serious. And so we loaded everything in our cars, brought it here. So we contaminated our cars, contaminated our house. And then there was a problem with a leaking underneath our dishwasher, and with a hot air vent was drying the air and blowing mold through the house. And so mold exposure can cause allergies. That's probably the least. Upper respiratory infections, which my daughter-in-law was getting quite a bit. Flu-like symptoms, sleep disorders, itching, throat, eyes, and skin, chronic aches and pains. This is something that I would get inflammation of my muscles, Headaches, that's what my daughter experienced. Asthma, none of us had that. Memory loss. So this is what my mother actually had. And it got worse and worse. And we were told that you got to get her out of there, or else she's going to have some serious mental issues. And she did. Unfortunately, she is now in a nursing home. She just, after not wanting to live with us because she didn't want to live in the country, but we tried, and tried to help her recover. But unfortunately, she resisted. So she's not a Christian. And but we keep praying for her, and she's still, her memory loss is still in decline though. Vertigo, fatigue, and more. So a lot of things that mold exposure can do, and it can get so bad where moving out is what we did, and we were fortunately able to move back into our house. But sometimes you just have to abandon everything and never come back, because in the Bible, if you read in the books of the first 5 books of the Bible, you'll see in Leviticus and Deuteronomy the laws concerning mold, and it could get and they call it a plague or leprosy of the house, and even the stones, if it's bad enough, will have to be taken out and thrown out, and use new stones to rebuild the house, because there's just no way of remediating them. And so this is a link here for Dr. Wes Youngberg, which we consulted with and determined through some testing, and I wanted to share with someone asked about links, and so I'm going to put all the links here at one time in our chats just to get this over with. But anyway, we consulted with him on the phone, and he was very helpful for us to understand what was going on with my wife. And so there's some links that are important links that I'm going to go over here right now. And so I recommend, first thing, when you get a house, even your house right now, is get something like this, which is a humidity meter. You want to keep your humidity in your house at 50%, or between 40 and 50% is good. You get it too dry, what happens is your hardwood floors, if you have them, dry out. The glue in your furniture dries out. But this is very important to keep track of your humidity in your house, because what happened with us is not only do we have the leakage underneath our dishwasher, and I'm going to show you a picture of that, what happened. That was drying the mold and blowing the spores throughout the house, because there was a heating vent right underneath our cabinet where the black mold was, and it blew. Instead of using a ductwork to come out to the front of the cabinet, they actually just blew across the floor and put like a little vent on the front of the cabinet. So it was very poorly designed, and so anyway, one of the first things you can do when you is get a humidity meter and see what the humidity is in the house. We keep ours at 50%, but when we moved into our house, sometimes the humidity would get so bad in the house because we cook a lot, and that water was running down the windows inside the house, and that is prime breeding ground for mold. And so this is I just took this picture this evening. This is shows you minimum and maximum humidity. It shows you, and you can get these from Amazon. I just sent that link to everybody, and they're only like $19, and it's well worth having. And my wife, now we're back in the house. Honey, the humidity is 54%. Do you know why? And then well, we have a whole house dehumidifier now to keep it low, and we're going to talk more about that in the next talk on the remediation section. And so what we did was, when we started understanding my wife was sick with mold, we started following this man here who has a company called Aerobiological Solutions, and he's in Washington, D.C. And we were very impressed with his work. Now, and he's not the only one, you know. Let me back up again and say that this with mold, it's highly controversial and even contentious on testing methods, on remediation methods, on these different methods. And so and Greg Weatherman is a man here who actually has talked, who actually testified at different people where they got sick for workplace mold issues. And so my wife had been doing some work, and he also worked very closely with this man, Dr. Shoemaker, who survivingmold.com. I don't have that link, but it's survivingmold.com, which he uses more of a medical treatment. But Dr. Wes Youngberg actually refers to some of his work and is able to apply some of his things that he does in a more natural, with a more natural treatment to get over mold toxicity. And so we were able to bring in, we actually flew in Greg Weatherman to inspect not only our house, but also my mother's house. And trying to convince my mother that you have a serious problem and got to get out of that house. And unfortunately, what happened with my mother, because mold can induce Alzheimer's. Many old people are in moldy. Let me also say too that whenever you have a house you walk into and it smells stuffy, musty, those are just other. That's mold. So you say, well, it's just a little musty smell. That has to be addressed. Your house should smell fresh and clean, and it shouldn't have that moldy, musty smell. And my mother's house is a brand new house too, brand new, but she got sick from the mold that was growing in her basement, and the whole house was just we actually for her house we used a commercial remediation. We had to sell her house when she went into the nursing home, and so we actually hired a commercial remediation service that was able to get her house tested and up to where we were able to finally be able to sell it. Anyway, so we brought Greg Weatherman and we flew him in to test our house, and I checked out receipts, and this is going back, 2018, I believe. And it was about $1,600 for each house, I think it was, which there may be better ways of doing it, someone more local, but we decided to bring him in, and Greg Weatherman in, and he suggested, before we flew him in, he suggested that, and also Dr. Wes Youngberg suggested we get what's called an ERMI test. This is supposed to be the gold standard for environmental testing, although there's some out there who say that it could give false positives for excessive mold in the house. But you'll hear about the ERMI test, ERMI, and the HurtsMe test. The HurtsMe test actually hurts less because it's less expensive. So the ERMI test is an environmental relative moldy index developed by the U.S. Department of the EPA. And what it does is it checks for mold levels of 36 different types of molds in your house, and gives an index number and compares them to a database of all homes across the United States. So they compare and they see if your house is less moldy or more moldy than the average house in the United States. And then so it's recommended you get the ERMI test first, and then later, as a subsequent test, you can get the HurtsMe test, which is a subset. It just says 5 molds, which are known as the big 5. Aspergillus, those are big names, like Stachybotrys and the Wilhelmia mold, and I've learned these names now. And it gives you a composite number for that. And so if you're over a certain index, it means it's probably for someone who's got SIRS, they call it, which is chronic inflammatory response, is what you get when you get problems with mold, inhaling mold into your system. And so what this test is, the ERMI test and the HurtsMe test, is what they do is they send you a wipe, and that you wipe dust from different surfaces, and then you send in in a little Ziploc bag, and then they test the mold in your house. And this is what the cost is. It's not cheap. It's $285, and now and then say for instance you want to do upstairs and downstairs. That's $285 for each one of those tests. And then what happens is that you're not really sure which room it came out of, where the mold is. Just kind of just a general, you could just use one wipe for the whole house, upstairs and downstairs, and say, well, there's mold somewhere. Somewhere we test the mold. And the HRSME is $150 for the 5 mold species. And there's some other tests out there too. This isn't the only test. You could hire a professional that does everything. And probably, if I was to do it again, I might just hire a professional to do the testing, because the first time we did the ERMI test, we measured. I'll show you the results here. Where is it? Right. Oh, this is what it is. It's basically, you're just wiping with they send a Swiffer cloth, and you wipe down the surfaces and send in the cloth. And so this is what our report looked like. This shows all the different molds and the relative, and then they form an index that's way at the bottom of the screen. And so it was 12.76. And this is the chart that they send you with it. It's called the relative moldiness index value. And so 0 means is the average of all houses, and you see on the left-hand side, percent of homes in the U.S. 50% of the homes are less moldy or more moldy than this index of 0. And so that was 12.7. So we landed right here, which our house was more moldy than most houses in the United States. And what I was trying to say is that this is an expensive test, and you can you may get a reading that's positive, that and you don't know what rooms that the moldiness is from. And then what happened is that I did this. We started emptying the house from everything, and we tested again after we cleaned the whole house, and actually the index went up, and it was caused by stirring up the dust in the house and the mold. And so if I had to do it over again, I might. It's hard to say if I would have done it. If I would have called a professional, maybe for testing, I would, just to come and bring a professional tester, because there's other ways of testing too. Another way is for air sampling, where they sample the air, and actually Greg Weatherman's against that. But other people say it's a good way or excellent way of testing for mold. Another way is Petri dishes, where they put that's an inexpensive way. Put Petri dishes in different places of the house, and I've never tried that, but that sounds very logical, because it's from mold precipitating in the air, and you could put a Petri dish in different rooms and get an idea of the moldiness in your house. But hire a home inspector and have him. And tell them that you're very concerned with mold, and find every place where there's possibility to have mold in your house. And so if the house smells musty or mildewy, and especially if you see mold, the house has got mold, and it's got to be addressed. And so this is a report that he did, photos on his visual inspection. It was July 4th, 2018, of our house. And some of the comments that he had, and some of these things are very interesting. Some are pretty obvious, like for instance, you're going to see some mold on spots of mold on a bathroom ceiling, and that's no good. Before we saw a little bit, you clean it with a little bleach, and you think, oh, you're done with it, But these things have to be addressed and prevented. So this is some of the pictures he took. He said here, clean below the refrigerator. This is one of the most important things about mold is that cleanliness is very important. And he recommends a percentage of 3 parts of water to 1 part vodka, which I think is excellent for cleaning. It doesn't leave an odor, because some people use vinegar, which is okay, but acetic acid is very toxic, especially if you breathe it. And if you look at what acetic acid is, a vinegar is 5% acetic acid, and if you look at the material safety data sheet from the government for acetic acid, breathing the vapors is highly caustic to your lungs, and naturally it calls for hospitalization. You know, if fortunately it's diluted 5%, so it's not as regular vinegar is, but it is a toxin. And so, but the vinegar, I mean, the vodka and water solution works much better, much fresher smell, clean smell, evaporates quickly, and it's very highly effective for cleaning mold. And so he said to clean below the refrigerator. Here on the right hand side, the laundry dryer had a vent which was leaking. He said this leaks lint, humidity, and microbial fragments because basically you need, let me back up here, 3 things to make mold dangerous, and that's moisture, and that comes from this, in this instance, comes from clothes, wet clothes. Moisture, drying, that's another thing. When the mold gets dry, it starts releasing micro fragments and mycotoxins, which can spread. And then velocity, air velocity. This has all three ingredients for mold toxicity. And that, again, that's moisture, drying, and then the air velocity. And so if that's leaking in your house somehow, not perfectly sealed, this could be a source of moldy mycotoxins, which is the toxin that molds release in the air to your house. So make sure your vent is sealed very tight and venting outside. And this is here what happened. This is what we noticed too, that you can't really see in the picture, but the floor was all wavy in front of the dishwasher. And it says here, water damage has occurred under the dishwasher, impacting the plank flooring. And this caused to be a major issue. He told us to check this, and we pulled the dishwasher out, black mold all underneath, and on the cabinet on the left hand to the left of this, way in the back on the floor is where the vent register was. And then what they did was they just screwed a vent, a grill on the bottom of the cabinet in the bottom, and so it was blowing across. Water was leaking from the dishwasher, causing it to be moist. The hot air from the heat was drying the mold and then blowing across it, which was constantly feeding us with mycotoxins all through the winter. And so it was very, very bad, very bad. And so these are some pictures, some more pictures that happened. Another dryer vent we had, he said it looks like it was leaking. It looks like it wasn't even connected properly, or went out the. Oh, here's a mold on the ceiling. You know, this is an issue that many people will have mold. They'll say, "Oh, I'll get around to cleaning it." There's mold. You got to get it cleaned up, and because they dry and they start releasing toxins in the air, and so if you check in your humidity in your house, and then they even have these, we actually, after we rehabbed the house, we installed a fan that comes on in our bathroom at a certain humidity. Because my wife was actually very bad about that, not turning the fan. I told her it could cause problems, and she wanted it to always be very warm. My wife is from Brazil, from the tropics, and I liked it very warm. And look at this. This here, the effects of high humidity in the basement, condensing on the HVAC supplement vent. See, you can see this rust on the vent actually was caused by, it was actually, with the air conditioning running, it would drip humidity from that's bad news for, and so what happened is because there was so much humidity in the air in our house, we never kept track of the humidity, and it was very, very humid, is that the flexible ductwork got all contaminated with mold and actually had to be completely torn out of the house. And in order to, because it basically got contaminated. Another, we'll cover more of that in the remediation section. And so another trouble point is that, and then we had was, this HVAC installed the matter does not allow quick access to coils and condensate drain pan for maintenance and cleaning. So we had this all taken out, and we replaced the whole air conditioning and heating system. And And what he's basically saying is that the coils in here inside your air conditioning and heating system is where which cools the air. The air conditioning heating man who, when they installed the air conditioning heating, said to us that this is a frequent place for mold. And that would be horrible. You know, that's why it's important to have a good filtration system in your house. There was a MERV value, MERV value that he recommended as one of those thick filters. And I don't have the exact MERV as how well it but it's basically it's a filter which will help considerably. But anyway, so the new air conditioning heating system has an access that we can easily remove the plate and inspect to see if it's any kind of moisture, if it needs any cleaning or anything. Next one here. It's on the upper left. It says ground floor sink had minor leakage and can be sanded and sealed with diluted with glue. So see, there was actually some mold. This is a view right here at the bottom underneath that shows a little bit of mold from leakage. And because there's no velocity, air velocity, he's basically saying is that you can take some sand it and seal it with some diluted wood glue. But we ended up getting rid of the vanity. My wife didn't want to take any chances. So, but anyway, so we, but if there is, you could save some of the furniture, but we decided not to. We didn't want to take any chances of. My wife wanted everything new in the house because another side effect of mold toxicity is panic attacks. Not able to breathe. It's horrible. There's people who have a double copy of a mutation called MTHFR, which is a gene which has to do with methylation, which helps in which is the detoxification of your body. And some people have that double. I have a double copy actually. My wife has a single copy, and about 28% of the population have it. And so it's not like everybody, just because you have mold in your house, it's like some people can tolerate cigarette smoke. Others is just horrible for. But it's not good for you anyway. But some people you just my wife was one who couldn't tolerate it, and the rest of the family was able to tolerate it much better. He also did an inspection of the windows, and this is something that may be new to you. He said signs of leakage. He looked carefully in the corners of the window and saw cracks where there was expansion. And what happened was he said to us there are two types of windows, and he said there's windows that leak and windows that are going to leak. And what he basically is saying is on the outside of a window there's your screen, and sometimes many times rain or moisture can get into the corners, and because of the sunlight and the weather, they expand and contract, and the corners, which are usually welded or sealed, can crack, even a microscopic crack, and it can start leaking in the corner. And if your windows are not sealed properly all the way around, where no moisture can get in and cause rot and mold on your plywood in the corners of your windows. And I'm going to show you what happened was on our addition that we had put in, that the builder did not properly seal around the windows. And now I'm noticing when I drive around, I see some new subdivisions go up, new housing developments. They're putting this asphalt butyl sealant all around the window to make sure that if windows do leak in the corners, that they don't cause mildew or cause mold on the plywood. And so here he also said another picture of window leakage, close up of the cracks in there. And then also something else, and I'm going to show you a picture of what happened in a moment. Also, my son was putting in hardwood floor, and he was using a special glue to glue that's waterproof. He said the wood flooring was applied to the basement floor with an allegedly waterproof sealant. My son who's a hardwood flooring expert, was put off by that a little bit, but it is a special glue. And so it's possible if you don't have the right glue or hardwood floor glued down to concrete, that you could have a problem, because moisture comes up from the ground underneath, and it could cause mold underneath your hardwood floor. And so what we ended up doing, and I'll talk just a little bit in the remediation, my son and I actually removed every window of the house, and to check the corners to see if there's any water leakage. And the windows in the whole main house were okay, but the most interesting thing was in the new addition, what happened was they already started to leak, because they weren't installed with the proper sealant around the rubber butyl flashing, they call it. It's a 6-inch wide piece of flashing, or adhesive flashing, but it's not. Think of flashing usually as metal, but this is actually made of rubber and like asphalt. Anyway, we didn't have it around. He didn't install them around the windows. In fact, the builder said, I never even heard of that before. So see the corners of the windows? That's just exactly. This is the new addition too. And so in the next video, we'll show you how we took care of this. But this was a big surprise for us. We removed every single window in the house, and the windows in the new addition had mold in the corners. And you say, well, it's on the outside of the house, but it actually was actually through the wall. And so we were able to reseal everything, remove this. We had to remove this plywood and replace it. And so that concludes our talk about home inspection and testing. And next we're going to talk about home remediation.